Black Christmas is one of the most influential slasher films of all time, and its chilling ending remains a defining moment in horror cinema. Released in 1974, this film has inspired countless movies and is credited with setting the stage for the slasher genre. Yet, almost 50 years later, the identity of the villain, Billy, continues to be a source of debate. To understand the impact of the film and its unforgettable conclusion, we must first take a look at what happens in the final moments of Black Christmas, the build-up to the ending. Set in a sorority house just before Christmas, the film follows a group of young women as they prepare for the holiday season. Unbeknownst to them, a perverted killer, later known as Billy, has infiltrated the house and is picking off the girls one by one. The story is filled with tension, as the killer is never fully revealed until the end, and his actions leave the audience in suspense. Billy doesn't follow the typical slasher movie formula of wearing a mask or disguise. Instead, he uses psychological horror tactics, primarily through eerie phone calls. Billy's calls are disturbing and confusing. He speaks in multiple voices, refers to figures like Billy and Agnes, and frequently makes lewd, threatening, and violent comments. These calls escalate in severity throughout the film, becoming more menacing as the bodies begin to pile up. The protagonist, Jess, becomes increasingly worried as her friends go missing, and she contacts the police. The sorority house's phone line is tapped, and soon the authorities can trace the calls, which only heightens the sense of danger. In the meantime, Jess faces a personal crisis of her own. She discovers she's pregnant and plans to have an abortion, which puts a strain on her relationship with her boyfriend, Peter. Tensions rise, and Peter's erratic behavior makes him a prime suspect in the murders. Jess grows more anxious as her friends continue to vanish, one after another. What happens in the final moments? The final moments of Black Christmas are as suspenseful and terrifying as any in the horror genre. As the murders pile up, only Jess is left alive in the house. Lieutenant Ken Fuller, the police officer investigating the murders, stations an officer outside the house to keep watch. However, it is soon revealed that Billy has already killed the officer, leaving Jess completely vulnerable. Meanwhile, Fuller is busy investigating Peter at a music conservatory, suspecting him of being the killer. When he discovers a piano that Peter had violently destroyed earlier, his suspicions grow. The tension peaks when Billy makes another phone call, staying on the line long enough for the police to trace it back to the sorority house. Fuller then orders Officer Nash to call Jess and inform her that the killer is inside the house, though Nash loses his composure and instead panics, leading to a breakdown in communication. Despite this, Jess does not immediately leave the house. Instead, she ventures upstairs to check on her two remaining friends, Phil and Barb. To her horror, Jess finds their bodies, bloodied and lifeless. It's then that she notices Billy hiding behind a door. She runs downstairs in a panic, only to find that the front door is stuck. In her desperation, Jess runs into the basement and locks the door behind her. After a brief standoff, Billy retreats, leaving her trapped in the basement. While in the basement, Jess sees a shadowy figure peering through the windows. To her shock, Peter appears, calling her name. Believing Peter to be the killer, Jess tries to hide. However, Peter soon finds her, and as he gets closer, she defends herself, ultimately killing him with a fire poker. When the police finally arrive, they find Jess holding Peter's dead body. They assume that Peter was the killer, driven to madness by the news of Jess's abortion. The police conclude that Peter was responsible for the murders, and Jess is sedated and put to bed, seemingly safe. However, in one of the film's most chilling twists, it's revealed that Billy is still in the house, lurking in the shadows. The movie ends with a wide shot of the sorority house and the sound of the phone ringing, signaling that Billy has made yet another call. As the credits roll, the audience is left with the unsettling knowledge that the true killer remains at large, and Jess is still in mortal danger. Peter was not the real killer. One of the most crucial elements of the Black Christmas ending is the question of who the true killer is. Throughout the film, Peter is portrayed as a volatile, unstable character, especially after learning of Jess's decision to have an abortion. His behavior becomes more erratic, including a violent piano recital and an outburst in which he smashes the piano with a microphone stand. When Jess refuses to marry him and insists on going through with the abortion, Peter becomes even more unhinged. For a time, it seems plausible that Peter could be the killer. Jess suspects him after hearing one of the obscene phone calls, which includes a reference to having a wart removed, a phrase that Peter had used in relation to Jess's abortion. She believes Peter is responsible for the gruesome phone calls, but she soon realizes that he couldn't have been the one making them. This confusion sets the stage for the film's shocking conclusion. While Peter is certainly unstable and could have been capable of murder, he was not the killer. The true killer, Billy, remains a mystery until the very end, and his identity is never fully revealed. The ambiguity of Billy and Agnes. In terms of identity, the film leaves Billy's backstory largely unexplained. During his phone calls, Billy refers to himself as Billy and mentions a figure named Agnes. Director Bob Clark has revealed that Billy and Agnes were siblings, and there are hints of a traumatic event in their past. Billy mentions, "Don't tell them what they did," implying that some horrific incident occurred during their childhood. However, the film never delves into the specifics of Billy's past, leaving it up to the viewer to interpret the nature of his relationship with Agnes and the source of his madness. The lack of a detailed backstory actually enhances the horror of the film. Unlike many modern horror films that over-explain the killer's motivations, Black Christmas allows the audience to confront a faceless, enigmatic villain. This ambiguity leaves the viewer with a sense of unease and the understanding that Billy could be anyone, lurking in the shadows, watching and waiting to strike. The meaning of the ending. The ending of Black Christmas is a dark, unsettling commentary on the commercialization and perversion of the holiday season. Christmas, traditionally seen as a time of warmth and joy, is twisted into a nightmare in the film. The sorority house, which should be a place of safety and community, becomes a setting for terror. The characters are flawed and complex, and the film's central themes, including Jess's decision to have an abortion, make it a progressive, ahead-of-its-time commentary on the issues of the 1970s. The killer, Billy, embodies the threat of the unknown, and the ringing phone at the end signals that the danger is far from over. The Black Christmas ending leaves viewers with the haunting realization that, even as the police think they've solved the case, the true terror still lingers, and the sorority house is far from safe.